Hey there besties! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're continuing our recap of the manhwa, Lucia. If you're new to this series, check the description below for links to previous episodes. Lastly, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video. It really helps our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. As the carriage slowed before the royal palace, the couple was still locked in a gentle kiss. They parted, and Duke Hugo licked his lips, wearing a faint smirk. "There," he said softly. "I've wiped your lips for you. Now tell me, do my lips look presentable?" Lucia looked dazed, her cheeks flushed. "I went through the trouble of having my cosmetics done, only for it to get ruined," she protested, quickly wiping his lips again. "You don't need anything on your face," he replied. "So don't bother painting your lips next time either." "Why not?" she asked, looking uncertain. "Because you're worried you'll end up getting rouge on yours?" "Then perhaps you should refrain from kissing me," she said. "And why would I do that?" he countered. "Applying rouge is the final touch that completes one's appearance," she insisted. He gently cupped her face, leaning closer. "You're beautiful without such embellishments," he said sincerely. "Every time I see you, all I can think about is kissing you again. I want to keep seeing that red tint in your eyes when you blush, and I see no reason to restrain myself." He leaned in, but she blocked him with her hand. "There's a time and place for everything," she said, attempting to sound firm. "Please, we're on our way to a very important event. His Majesty's coronation celebration." Duke Hugo leaned back but didn't lose his playful smile. "I fail to see how such events should interfere with us kissing," he muttered, before adding more thoughtfully, "but I suppose it is important, considering it's your official debut at court." Trying to calm herself, Lucia thought, "I'm not even nervous anymore." They soon arrived at the imperial palace. Duke Hugo took her hand, guiding her gently down the hall. "Feeling anxious?" he asked quietly. "Only a little," she admitted. He raised her hand and kissed it lightly. "There are few who outrank you, so it's the others who should feel uneasy," he teased with a soft smile. Lucia's gaze steadied. "Yes, you're right," she said. As they approached the entrance, her tension eased. "I'll be okay," she thought. "I'm not alone," she whispered, feeling her heart steady. As the palace doors opened, they stepped forward together, poised and graceful. They entered the ballroom side by side, moving in step as they approached the king's throne. They bowed. "You may rise," King Quays said formally. "Finally, I have the pleasure of meeting the famed Duchess I've heard so much about. He is my half-brother, and the king of this nation, Quays Hesse," Lucia thought as she lifted her face to meet his gaze. She remembered her dreams. Back then, when her marriage to Count Metten was arranged, Quays had sent her only a single-page letter that read more like an official decree. "It feels surreal to be standing before him like this," she thought. On a personal note, Quays added, narrowing his eyes slightly, "You are also my sister. Isn't that right?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Lucia replied calmly. But inwardly, she reminded herself, "I must not mistake his goodwill for brotherly affection. I should see it as an interest in the Duchess, not the sister. There's likely more behind his kindness." In her dreams, she would have been touched by such warmth, back when she was lonely and exhausted. But this time, it was different. "You may address me as brother if it pleases you," Quays offered, trying to sound gentle. "I could not possibly, Your Majesty," Lucia replied with a polite smile. "I implore you to withdraw such a request." Quays was startled. She didn't even hesitate, he thought, taken aback. She doesn't need her brother's attention. She already has someone by her side, he realized, noticing her glance toward her husband. Lucia met Hugo's gaze. "My dependable husband," she thought as their eyes locked. Hugo smiled gently, his face warm. Hugo watched her with quiet admiration. "She's kind, strong, and breathtaking," he thought. "How did I ever meet someone like her?" The king's eyes widened. "What was that?" "I've never seen Hugo make that expression before," he thought, his face warming as he glanced at Queen Beth. "Beth, did you just see that?" he asked, only to find her flushed and stifling a laugh. Beth's mind spun. "So she's known all along and never told me," Quays realized, recalling their conversation from that day. "So, what was she like?" he had asked. She is quite lovely, Beth had replied, smiling. Is that all? He had asked, but she had only giggled. Now, watching the couple, he turned to Hugo with a sly glance. This is your doing, isn't it? What do you mean, Your Majesty? Hugo replied calmly, though his face was still flushed. Just look at how your expression changes, Quays muttered. It's astonishing. What kind of sister treats her brother so coldly the first time they meet? You must have done something to make her act this way. It's not my fault you never played the role of a brother, Hugo replied evenly. Wait, I have a perfectly good reason for that. Quays protested. Some things are beyond my control. Queen Beth smiled, her eyes warm as she watched them. She's glowing with love and devotion. How can anyone be so devoted to her husband? She thought, watching Lucia clutch Hugo's hand gently. The ballroom shimmered under the chandeliers, filled with the soft voices of noble society. Amidst the elegance, Queen Beth stood with Lucia, surrounded by the idle chatter of gathered noble ladies. My goodness! Something quite unbelievable happened at the party, they whispered. Lucia stayed quiet, observing the room while sipping her wine. Her eyes drifted to a woman across the hall in a revealing gown. That woman is rather well endowed, Lucia thought. I wonder what it must take to have a figure like that. Her mind wandered further, back to her dreams. Come to think of it, all of his past lovers in those dreams shared that trait. I'm certain he prefers women with figures like that. And I'm quite the opposite. A small pang of doubt tightened in her chest. I once worried he would reject my proposal, since I don't match his preferences. But then she remembered the way his eyes looked at her. An unnecessary concern, she reminded herself. Still, the feeling lingered. To be honest, I'm jealous. Jealous of her confidence, her beauty, and the figure to wear such a bold gown so easily. Her eyes flickered toward her husband across the room. Duke Hugo stood tall, commanding the space as always. He's always the center of attention wherever he goes. Though I want to boast that he's mine, there's still a childish part of me that wants to shout at everyone to stop looking at him. A small, private smile touched her lips. Only I know how his muscles move beneath that finely tailored suit, what he looks like completely bare. When I think about it, it excites me. Even when he's fully clothed. She quickly scolded herself. Oh no, that sounds so improper, she thought, her cheeks flushing. She tried to focus on the conversation around her. No, I need to pay attention. At least look like I'm listening. But her mind kept drifting. I just can't keep my thoughts steady today, she sighed internally. Meanwhile, across the room, Hugo's eyes remained fixed on Lucia as he spoke with the other nobles. Vivian seems to be drinking a bit too freely. At this rate, she'll get drunk, but she looks like she's enjoying herself, he thought, studying her flushed cheeks. Then his gaze lowered to her gown. His eyes widened. Why does her gown look like that? Her entire back is exposed. A chill ran through him. I swear, I'll have that designer fired for this. After all the money I've paid, are they saving fabric now? His jaw tightened as he noticed men nearby stealing glances. This room should be filled with refinement, not rakes ogling my wife. How did I not notice this sooner? I was too busy looking into her eyes. His irritation flared. It's not as though I can gouge out every man's eyes here. He turned to a butler sharply. Fetch me a shawl. Make sure it's suitable for a lady. Right away, Your Grace. The butler stammered, hurrying off. Lucia, meanwhile, finished her glass, a pleased warmth on her face. That was wonderful. Oh, I've already finished it, she thought happily as a waiter approached with more drinks. I think I'll have another, she decided, reaching out, but before she could take the glass, Hugo appeared, taking it from her hand. She blinked in surprise. I think you've had enough, he told her calmly. Around them, a few ladies gasped softly, their eyes on the couple. He draped a shawl around her shoulders before handing her a glass of orange juice. Before she could protest, he downed her cocktail in one gulp. My cocktail? She thought, dazed, watching him. Oh, how I want to press my lips to his neck right now. Good heavens, what am I thinking? Maybe I have had too much to drink. She looked up. Why did you put this shawl on me? You seemed cold, he said firmly. Don't take it off. Cold? But it's warm today. Is he serious? She wondered, puzzled. Just then, King Quays approached. You were only away from your wife for a moment, and you've already come back for her, he remarked. Hugo didn't respond, his eyes still on Lucia. He hasn't taken his eyes off her since earlier, Quays noted, amused. A courtier arrived hurriedly. Your Majesty, Your Grace, we've been looking everywhere for you. Other nobles gathered, shifting the conversation toward politics. Lucia sat quietly. Now that the men have joined, they're discussing politics. I don't know much about international matters, she thought, trying to maintain a polite posture. This is so boring. She glanced at Hugo. He hardly speaks, yet everyone listens when he does. But that's not a point to be argued, a noble said. Lucia sighed inwardly. I'm so bored. And maybe it's the wine, but it's getting warm in here. She tugged at the shawl. I want to take this off, she thought, slipping it slightly, her eyes flicking up to him. His expression hardened. No. But I'm sweating, she complained inwardly, turning away, but he gently held her shoulder in place. She tapped his finger lightly. He raised a brow, leaning down. What is it? She whispered, her cheeks pink. You have a preference for beautiful women with ample bosoms, don't you? Lucia found no reason to dwell on the women from the Duke's past. It was the women she saw in her dreams, his future lovers, that lingered in her mind, their beauty and confidence standing so effortlessly by Duke Turan's side. Perhaps it's because I'm jealous of them, she admitted to herself. You have a preference for beautiful women with ample bosoms, don't you? She asked suddenly, her voice soft but tinged with unease. Duke Turan turned to her, caught off guard. Why would you suddenly ask me something so absurd? But I've heard that's what all men prefer, she replied quietly. Where on earth did she get such a ridiculous idea? He wondered, his face flushing slightly. He furrowed his brow. Don't put your faith in nonsense spoken by people who enjoy stirring up insecurity. Lucia met his gaze seriously. I wish he wouldn't assume I'm immune to such things, she thought. Honestly, I don't see what's so absurd, she continued. There are whispers that your past lovers were all beautiful women with generous figures. His hands dropped from her shoulders, fidgeting as he searched for words. Vivian. He began, then paused, visibly rattled. The usually composed Duke Turan, who never flinched even under pressure, looked uncertain for the first time. Lucia couldn't help but smile, watching him struggle for a response. He looks genuinely flustered. The man who wouldn't bat an eye even if the world fell apart. He's adorable, she realized, her own cheeks warming. I was only teasing you. I didn't think you'd take it seriously, she said, giggling softly. He stared at her, speechless. Vivian. He muttered again, unsure. It's a side of him that only I get to see, she thought, her laughter bubbling up. Who would have thought a man like him could look so endearing? Suddenly, he pulled her close and gently bit her ear, startling her so much that she dashed away, her face flushed red. Realizing they were still at the ball, Lucia quickly composed herself, but caught Duke Hugo watching her with a smirk. Oh my goodness, did he forget we're in a ballroom full of people? Every noble's faces were red as they watched what just happened. Lucia was flushed with embarrassment, before turning, trying to walk away, but the Duke quickly grabbed her hand, leaning forward from behind. Where do you think you're going, my dear wife? He asked. Flustered, she tried to step away. It's improper to ask a lady that. Now kindly release me. But he held her hand, his face red as he smirked. No, not here, she whispered in panic. Is he really going to do it now? She thought as he held her, before kissing her, not minding the nobles in the room. Lucia's face was fully red as they broke their kiss. She shoved him before dashing away, leaving the hallway. Around them, nobles whispered, faces pink with shock. The Duchess just ran out. She ran away. King Quays watched, a chuckle escaping him. You two seem quite fond of each other. I never imagined you'd display such affection at my coronation celebration, he thought, crossing his arms, his own face slightly flushed. We're still newlyweds, Duke Hugo replied calmly. Newlyweds? It's been over a year and a half since your wedding. Just how long do you consider the honeymoon phase to last? Quays teased. Until we have children, we remain newlyweds. Quays sighed. Even if they'd married only yesterday, to see him act this way is a shocking breach of decorum, especially with so many watching, he thought. Guests whispered among themselves, taken aback by the Duke's behavior. Did you see that? I was so surprised I forgot to breathe, one noblewoman said. Quays glanced at Hugo, his eyes narrowing in amusement. Duke Turan. If I didn't know better, I'd say you're in love. I wasn't aware your majesty was familiar with that word, Hugo replied smoothly. What do you take me for? Quays shot back, feigning offense. I'm quite the romantic. Hugo almost laughed. For someone who's taken lives to seize the crown, it's amusing to hear him say that, he thought. You know, this would be the perfect moment to tell us a story about your romance, Quays suggested lightly. Many here would love to hear it. An aide tensed beside him. Impeccable timing, your majesty, he thought. Another nobleman leaned in, eager. I'd like to know myself. I'd rather decline, Hugo replied firmly. A single word outside these walls can turn into 100. Oh, come now. You've never been one to worry about rumors, the king said. Hugo fell silent, deep in thought. Since arriving in the capital, I've kept track of every rumor, just in case any were unfavorable to her. If she were to hear something untrue about me and misunderstand. He thought, recalling Lucia's earlier question about his preference for women with ample bosoms. It seems my efforts weren't enough, he realized, closing his eyes as Quays continued speaking. Are you even listening to me? Quays asked, puzzled. I've never cared for idle gossip, but it seems I'll have to take more decisive action, Hugo decided quietly. Meanwhile, Lucia had retreated to the retiring room, sinking into a cushioned seat, cheeks still warm. I wasn't drunk, she thought. But I got carried away because I was in a good mood. I always make poor choices when my mind isn't clear, she admitted, rubbing her face. Her gaze fell to the shawl around her shoulders. I know he doesn't care what others think, and yet, I gave him a reason to act like that. She touched the fabric lightly. I'm even warmer now because of this shawl. Why did he give it to me? Then it clicked. Was it because my back was exposed? I didn't think he was so traditional, she thought, stifling a laugh. I've heard that some men dislike it when their wives reveal too much skin, but I never imagined he'd be one of them. She sighed, fingers brushing the shawl again. Poor aunt might get blamed for this, she thought. Just then, a lady entered, cheeks pink. Your Grace, forgive me for intruding while you rest, but may I trouble you for a moment of your time? Rather than bringing his wife, Sophia, Count Elvin had come with his unmarried sister. Lucia noted this calmly as she watched the young woman approach. Do take a seat, Lady Elvin, Lucia said. Oh, you remember me. Lady Elvin beamed softly as she sat down across from her. I am delighted, Your Grace. My brother wishes most of all for my sister-in-law to make amends for the wrong she did you, she began, her tone careful. He asked me to relay their deepest remorse if he could not do so himself. I humbly offer their apology, Your Grace, and beg your understanding. Lucia listened without changing expression. There is truly no need for such an apology, Lady Elvin, Lucia replied steadily. Count Elvin's apology is accepted. Lady Elvin lowered her head gratefully. You have my deepest thanks for your gracious understanding. Lucia studied her quietly. If I had truly forgiven the Countess, I might have said, do tell the Countess we should have tea soon. It would signal to society that Sophia was welcome again, and a future invitation would follow. But I said nothing, Lucia thought. Lady Elvin stood. Thank you for your time, Your Grace. If you'll excuse me, I shall take my leave. As she walked away, she reflected, she's more resolute than I thought. Lucia's gaze followed Lady Elvin as she went to another woman seated nearby. Lucia signaled to her handmaiden. Who is that woman? She asked quietly. The lady beside Lady Elvin is Countess Anita Falcon, Your Grace, the handmaiden whispered back. Rumor has it her businesses are failing one after another, and she's barely keeping herself out of bankruptcy. So that's Anita Falcon? Lucia thought, tensing slightly. She rarely attends social events, so why go to the trouble of investigating me? Lucia's eyes narrowed. If she plans to use me to get closer to Hugh, she will make her move eventually. Lucia stood, adjusting her shawl. Let us return now, she told her handmaiden. I must remain cautious of her, she resolved. Meanwhile, Lady Elvin was speaking to Countess Falcon. The Duchess was far more resolute than I expected, Lady Elvin sighed. Despite my pleading, she didn't hint at lifting Sophia's social ban. Oh dear, Countess Falcon murmured, watching Lucia leave. Princess Vivian, Countess Falcon thought darkly, recalling an encounter from the past when Fabian confronted her in the capital. It appears you've been digging where you shouldn't, Countess. One should be prepared for the consequences before conducting background checks, Fabian had told her coolly. His Grace is most displeased. Countess Falcon had frozen at the time, realizing the truth. So it was the Duke who sabotaged my business, she remembered thinking. He would protect his household's honor, even if he felt nothing for his wife. Still, the punishment was too harsh. What did the princess say to him about me? She had wondered, pacing in her study, bitterness rising. She probably exaggerated, painting me as a threat rather than merely curious about her past, Falcon muttered. How dare she? She's only a duchess because she was born a princess. She clenched her jaw. After 3 marriages, I finally achieved the title of countess, despite coming from a ruined family. I fought prejudice all my life, using whatever means necessary to build my wealth. Society scorned me, but money silenced them. They didn't cast me out, I chose to stand apart. Her thoughts darkened. And then I met the Duke. Everything about him, his power, his wealth, his presence, was perfect. Even in bed, he was perfect. I thought I finally had everything. Then she appeared, and he discarded me without a second thought. The connections I built, the fortune I amassed, even my relationship with him. Everything crumbled. When she heard the Duchess had come to the capital, she had been determined to see her with her own eyes. She had tried to attend Countess Jordan's tea party but wasn't invited. Even befriending Lady Elvin hadn't helped. The Duchess, a stunning beauty? And the Duke deeply in love? Lies. All lies. Let's see how long you can hold onto your title, Duchess Vivian Hesse, she thought, her eyes cold. In the hallway, a servant hurried toward Lucia as she walked with her handmaiden. Your Grace. His Grace asked me to check on you since you've been away longer than expected. He wishes to know when you'll return to the ballroom. Lucia's cheeks warmed. It's barely been half an hour since I stepped out. Sending a servant to fetch me. Now everyone will think he's behaving strangely, she thought, pressing a hand to her face. Walk ahead and tell him I'm on my way back, she instructed. She turned quickly, heading back. Her handmaiden giggled softly. Oh, it seems His Grace always wants to know where you are. Lucia glanced back, flustered. Now you're teasing me too? The handmaiden panicked, her face reddening. No, Your Grace. I would never. It's just so sweet to see how much he cares for you. We all talk about it at the estate. I hope to have a marriage like yours someday. Lucia fell silent. I hadn't realized we appeared that way to others. It's true Hugh and I have been getting along well lately. Even though we see each other less here in the capital, our bond feels stronger. I don't know what changed, but everything he says now feels so gentle. So affectionate, she thought, her face warming as she looked down. A voice interrupted her thoughts. Your Grace? Ah, so it is the Duchess herself. To behold such beauty in person. I must confess, I'm delighted. A nobleman approached, smiling. I am Horio Metten, head of House Metten, having recently succeeded to the title of Count. Lucia's heart pounded quietly as she looked at the Count. I had a dream. One that wouldn't end, she thought, her gaze distant. I was so tangled in that nightmare, I thought I would never break free. Count Metten's voice cut into her thoughts. Your Grace, would you grant me the honor of an introduction to His Grace, the Duke? He asked politely. I recognize him as easily as I know his name, Lucia thought. No matter how hard I try to forget, it's hopeless. The Count continued, his tone rehearsed. I am aware that someone like me may fall short of His Grace's standards, but I wish to convey my willingness to serve him in any capacity he requires. Lucia's dazed expression did not change. His presence feels like a nightmare, trying to convince me that my marriage is an illusion. He is the man from that long, suffocating dream. Count Metten's face flushed as he forced a smile. Should you grant me this chance, Your Grace, I will not forget your kindness. Lucia remained silent, her thoughts tangled in the past. Everything, the herbs I took to make myself barren, the marriage proposal I accepted with dread, every step was to escape the shadow of this man. A drop of sweat rolled down her neck as she clenched her fists behind her gown. Had I known what marriage truly meant, I would never have submitted so easily to that life. I always knew I would see him again, but why today of all days? Her eyes flickered toward Count Metten. Lucia blinked, surprised. Oh, has he always been this small? Or have I just grown used to Hugh? Compared to him, the Count is slight, barely taller than me. Count Metten looked uneasy as Lucia remained quiet. Please, Your Grace, an introduction is all I ask, he repeated. Lucia studied him, her expression sharpening. He hasn't changed at all. For the chance to grasp power, there is no limit to how low he will stoop. A man's nature rarely changes. He's always reaching for things beyond his grasp. She felt a calm strength in her chest. Just thinking of Hugh's embrace gives me courage. I am capable of things I never imagined. Her gaze turned cold. A dream is just a dream. In reality, I am free. I will never be tethered to a man like him. This is our first meeting, and you're being discourteous, she said sharply. If you have business with His Grace, speak to him directly. Count Metten's eyes widened in shock. Lucia remembered how she once trembled under his gaze. Now, she met his eyes without flinching. As she stepped past him, her resolve solidified. If I chose to strike him here and now, he would be powerless to stop me. A smirk crossed her lips, and a quiet laugh escaped. Finally. I freed myself from that nightmare. Her eyes shone, not with joy, but with certainty. I can't wait to see Hugh. Even if I can't explain everything, I want to share this moment with him. Then, almost like a whisper, a curse fell from her lips. In the end, the Count will die a miserable death, just as he did in my dream. It's what he deserves. She paused as she walked, her thoughts steady. He may not meet the end I remember. The future is shifting. Lucia recalled that in the 5th year of her marriage to Count Metten, the king had ordered the deaths of all who opposed him. It was the start of what would later be known as the 100 Days of Bloodshed. Rumor had it that it was Duke Hugo who led the operation and personally carried out the executions. Count Metten, lacking skill in politics or alliances, tried to align himself with the king's supporters but failed. Those who opposed the king found him easy to sway and pulled him to their side. Branded a traitor, Count Metten's house fell in a single night. He was executed on the spot as soldiers raided his estate. His family was wiped out, though his youngest son Bruno managed to escape and flee the country. Lucia bit her lip. I wonder, was it Hugh who led the soldiers that night? She would never know for sure, but the thought sent a chill through her. If I had been caught that night, would he have been the one to take my life? That night had been one of terror, but also of freedom. It was the night she reclaimed herself, shedding the title of Countess Metten and leaving behind that cursed identity. I should leave it in the past, she told herself. Whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with me anymore. But as she continued walking, she couldn't stop the final thought that slipped through. Even so, I hope he meets the most wretched end possible. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.